You're standing in a clearing at dawn. You think you're alone. You're not. A deer freezes at the tree line. A crow lands and fixes one black eye on your face. Past the ridge, an elephant tastes the air and goes still. And a fox you fed last winter comes trotting straight toward you. 4 animals. One of you. And not one of them sees the same creature. So what does a wild animal think a human is? They can't agree. Because there is no single human hiding inside an animal's mind. Every species builds a different version of you. And the first version most of them build is a monster. Let's start there, because it's the answer with the hardest numbers behind it. In 2023, a team of biologists led by Liana Zanet and Michael Clinchy did something simple and a little cruel. They hid speakers around waterholes in the South African savannah, in a reserve crawling with lions, and they waited. So picture it from the animal side. You're a giraffe. The sun is going down, you're thirsty, you finally lower your head to drink, and a sound comes out of the dark. Sometimes it was lions, real ones, growling, snarling, close. And sometimes it was people, just people, talking calmly, reading out loud, nothing threatening in the words at all. And the animals bolted from the human voices about twice as fast as they bolted from the lions. Not shouting, not gunshots, the quiet murmur of a few people having a conversation. Giraffes, leopards, rhinos, warthogs, elephants, 95% of the species they tested were more terrified of the human voice than of the top predator on the whole continent. Sit with that for a second. In the animals world, the most dangerous thing that can walk up to that waterhole is not the lion crouched in the grass. It's you, unarmed, in shorts, reading a paragraph out loud. And maybe you're thinking those animals just weren't used to lions. They were. This is lion country. They know exactly what a lion sounds like. And they've decided you are worse. And it makes a brutal kind of sense. A lion, a herd can sometimes face down together, or outrun, or spot in the grass. A human is different. We kill from a distance you can't judge, with tools you can't see, in ways nothing in an animal's evolution ever prepared it for. So the safest rule a species can carry is simple. Hear a human, don't calculate, just leave. And this is not one strange study in one strange place. In 2015, a scientist named Chris Darramont published a paper in the journal Science with a title that doesn't flinch: The Unique Ecology of Human Predators. His team lined up how hard humans hunt against how hard every other predator on Earth hunts. And humans killed adult prey, the big, strong, breeding adults that lions and wolves and sharks usually leave alone because they're too dangerous to take on, at rates up to 14 times higher than any other predator alive. 14 times. And it isn't only how much we kill, it's what we kill. Every other predator picks off the young, the old, the sick, the slow. We go after the ones in their prime, the strongest animals in the herd, the exact ones nothing else on Earth is willing to touch. And here's the part that should feel strange. You, personally, have probably never hunted anything in your life. It doesn't matter. To a wild animal, you don't show up as one harmless person on a walk. You show up wearing the reputation of every human who came before you. So if you're a wild thing, and your whole bloodline survived by learning what to fear, you would be insane not to put the human at the very top of that list. And everywhere we've looked, they have. But the fear does something far bigger than send one animal running. It bends whole landscapes out of shape. In 2019, a researcher named Justin Siraki, working with that same lab, showed that when you simply play recordings of human voices in an area, even the top predators, the mountain lions, the big cats, go quiet and cautious. They hunt less. They move less. They spend their nights listening instead of stalking. And when the predators pull back, everything beneath them shifts too. The smaller hunters creep out into the open. The mice change the paths they take across bare ground. One sound, a human voice, and the entire food chain quietly rebuilds itself around avoiding you, not around avoiding the lion. Think about how strange that is. The lion is the king of that savannah. You are the thing the king lies awake listening for. And yet, here is the first crack in the whole idea, and it matters. That fear is not blind. Animals are not simply born shrieking at the shape of a person. In 2025, a review that pulled together about 30 years of data landed on something important. Animals are most afraid of humans in exactly the places where humans actually kill them. Where people hunt, the terror is total. Where people don't, where we're only hikers and tourists and researchers wandering around with clipboards, plenty of animals barely react at all. So it isn't human equals monster, full stop. It's colder and smarter than that. It's this kind of human in this place has drawn blood before, so run. Which means the animal across the clearing isn't reacting to humanity. It's reacting to a memory. And that quietly opens a door the fear alone can never walk through. If they are keeping a running list of which humans are dangerous, how detailed does that list get? detailed enough to remember your face. This is where it stops being about humans as some blurry category and starts being about you, personally. In 2010, a wildlife biologist named John Marsloff at the University of Washington ran an experiment that sounds like something out of a comic book, and he built it to be sneaky on purpose. He and his students pulled on a rubber mask, a caveman face, and wore it while they trapped and banded a handful of wild crows on campus. Nothing bad happened to those crows beyond a few minutes in the hand, but the mask mattered because it let him test one thing and nothing else. Not the clothes, not the walk, not the route across campus, just the face. And here's what the crows did with it. From that day on, whenever anyone crossed campus wearing the caveman mask, the crows dove at them and screamed. When someone wore a different neutral mask, a face that had never so much as touched them, the crows didn't care at all. Same jacket, same stride, same body. Everything identical, except the face. Think about what that actually takes. Not a fear of people in general. That part's easy. This is a wild bird holding one specific human face in its head, the way you'd hold the face of someone who once robbed you. The crows had filed that face under the word dangerous, and they came after it on sight. And it gets worse for us, because that grudge did not fade. Those crows carried it for at least 2 years and 8 months, and it spread. Crows that had never been trapped, crows that weren't even there when it happened, learned to hate the caveman face too, just from watching the older birds lose their minds at the sight of it. The information moved through the flock like a rumor through a small town. One human, marked dangerous, remembered for years and taught to birds who had never once met him. To those crows, you are not a human. You are a face with a record. And sure, you might say, crows are famously brilliant. Fine. But this is not just some clever crow party trick. In 2009, researchers in Florida tested wild mockingbirds, ordinary little birds in ordinary suburban yards. One person walked up near a nest a few times over 4 days. The total time that person spent close to the nest? Somewhere around 60 seconds. That was enough. After roughly a minute of watching one specific human, the mockingbirds could pick that exact person out of a group of similar-looking college students days later and single them out to dive at. 60 seconds to memorize your face well enough to find you in a lineup. And later work found they don't just split the world into someone I've seen before and stranger. Some of these birds seem to keep track of which specific familiar person is which. Let that land for a second. There are neighbors on your street you couldn't pick out of a crowd of 2. There's a bird in your yard that may have you completely memorized. And for a wild animal, that isn't showing off. Telling one dangerous human apart from a harmless one is the difference between burning your energy, fleeing every person you ever see, and saving that panic for the one who actually hunts you. Recognizing your face is survival math. So the version of you living inside its head is not a category at all. It's a mugshot with your name written under it. Now, once you know that animals are filing away individual humans, the next question almost asks itself, how many channels are they reading you on? Because a face is only light bouncing off skin. What about your voice? What about the smell of you? For that, go to Amboseli in Kenya and meet the elephants. Elephants live 60, 70 years. They forget almost nothing. And an old matriarch is basically a walking library of every threat her family has ever survived. She's the one the whole herd trusts to know which shapes on the horizon mean run. In their corner of Kenya, 2 kinds of people matter. The Maasai, herders who, in fights over land and cattle and water, have sometimes speared elephants. And the Kamba, farmers who mostly leave them alone. In 2014, a scientist named Karen McComb played recordings of human voices to these elephants. Just a man, calmly saying one plain sentence in the local language. When it was a Maasai man's voice, the elephants bunched together, went tense, and edged away. When it was a Kamba man's voice, saying the exact same words, they stayed calm. They heard the difference in a single spoken line, and it cuts finer than that. The oldest matriarchs could tell a Maasai man's voice from a Maasai woman's and from a boy's, and they only backed away from the grown men. Because the grown men are the ones who throw the spears. That is not fear of humans. That is a threat assessment, run on the sound of your voice, and sorted right down to the exact kind of person most likely to hurt them. And your voice is only one channel feeding that machine. Back in 2007, a scientist named Lucy Bates showed those same elephants could tell the 2 groups apart by smell alone. A whiff of clothing that had been worn by a Maasai man made them far more anxious than clothing worn by a Kamba man. No face, no voice, just the scent left in the fabric. They even reacted to the color red, the color of Maasai robes, differently than they reacted to white. So let's do something. Stop reading this as a list of studies and stand back in that clearing and slow all of it down. It's dawn. You take 1 step onto the wet grass. The deer at the tree line doesn't see a person. It sees the shape its mother's fear taught it, the outline that means run, and it's already gone before you finish the step. The crow on the branch tilts its head because it is checking your face against a list, and it will remember whether you were kind or cruel for years after you've forgotten this morning ever happened. And the elephant past the ridge has already caught the smell of you on the wind, already weighed the sound of your breathing, already sorted you into a category before you even knew it was there. You are standing perfectly still, and in that stillness you are being read, right now, by 3 completely different machines, on 3 completely different channels, each one built by a different history of pain. That is what it actually means to walk into the wild. You are never one thing being seen. You are a dozen different things being calculated all at once. But being read as a threat is only half of it, because a few animals do something much weirder with you than fear you. They read your mind, not your mind exactly, your attention. In 2002, a researcher named Brian Hare ran a test that's now famous. He hid food under one of 2 cups and then just pointed at the right one, or only glanced at it. Dogs followed the point almost every time. That sounds obvious until you hear who failed the same test. Chimpanzees. Our closest living relatives, brilliant problem solvers, worse at following a human's point than the dog asleep on your couch right now. You already know this if you live with a dog. It watches your face across the room, reading whether you're about to stand up, about to leave, about to say the one word it's been waiting for. It's not being cute. It's doing the thing its ancestors worked out long ago, that a human's eyes and hands tell you what is about to happen. To a dog, you are not a predator and you are not prey. You are a mind worth watching. But before this turns into a fairy tale, be honest about the science, because it is genuinely unsettled. Hand-raised wolves can learn to follow a point too, so nobody just waved a wand and made dogs magic. And plenty of otherwise clever animals flunk this test completely. Whether dogs come into the world already wired to read us or just learn it fast from a lifetime of staring at our faces is an argument scientists are still having right now, and anyone who tells you it's settled is selling something. But the behavior itself is solid rock. Some animals have learned to treat your attention as information, and a rare few have taken the one impossible step past that, from reading you to teaming up with you. In Mozambique, there's a bird called the greater honey guide, and it does something almost nothing else in the wild will do. It hires people. When a honey hunter walks into the bush and makes one specific sound, a rolling brrr call, handed down through generations, the honey guide calls back and then flies off ahead, tree to tree, leading the person straight to a wild bee's nest. The human breaks the hive open and takes the honey. The bird gets the wax and the grubs it could never reach on its own. 2 different species who cannot speak a word to each other, running a business partnership that is older than most countries. In 2016, a scientist named Claire Spottiswoode proved this was no accident. When the hunters used that traditional call, the birds were about twice as likely to guide them to a nest as when the same people made other, ordinary sounds. The bird knows what that call means. And here's the detail that should stop you cold. The honey guides in one region only answer the local call, the exact sound the honey hunters in their own area have used for generations. The bird learned a human custom and passed it down its own family line. To that honey guide, you are not a threat and you are not food. You are a partner with hands that open the one thing a beak never could. You're a tool that walks, and a good one. And here's the quiet twist in that. We love to call ourselves the species that tamed all the others, the ones who domesticated the dog, the horse, the cow. But this is a wild bird that reached back across the gap and partly tamed us. It taught our ancestors a call, kept us on as hunting partners, and has been passing that arrangement down its own bloodline for longer than anyone can count. Which brings us, at last, back to the fox, the one trotting across the clearing toward you like it knows your name, because sometimes they really do. A wild animal, fed and cared for by one particular person, can genuinely lose its fear and act for all the world like a friend. It happens. But here is the hard thing the wildlife biologists will tell you, and it is not the warm one. They don't call that friendship. They call it habituation, imprinting, and they treat it as a danger, not a happy ending. Because an animal that has decided humans are safe is an animal that walks up to the wrong person, wanders onto the wrong road, and does not live very long. The tameness that looks like love is often just the last thing an animal does before it dies. That fox running at you is not proof that it loves you. It's proof that it forgot to be afraid. And that is the loose thread that pulls the whole question apart. Because look hard at what we've been doing this entire time. We keep saying the deer thinks you're a monster, the crow remembers you, the elephant knows you're kind, the honey guide trusts you. But every single one of those studies measured a behavior. An animal running, scolding, retreating, retreating, guiding, following a finger. Not one of them ever cracked open a skull and found a thought. We can prove a crow learned to link your face with danger. We cannot prove the crow believes a single thing about you. And that gap is enormous. This is the oldest trap in the study of animal minds, and it cuts both ways. Assume an animal thinks exactly like you do, and you're fooling yourself, but insist it thinks nothing at all, that it's just a furry machine, and you're fooling yourself just as badly. The honest ground is narrow, and it's this. An animal's nervous system learned to connect a cue, your face, your voice, your smell, with an outcome: danger, safety, food. The version where the animal looks up and thinks the word human, the way you think the word human, is us. It's our own reflection, painted onto their eyes. So stand in that clearing one last time. The deer sees a predator worse than any lion. The crow sees a face it will hate for years. The elephant sees a category stitched together out of voices and smells. The dog sees a mind it can read. The honey guide sees a partner worth calling. The fox sees a safety it never should have trusted. 6 animals, one of you. And every one of them is right, because every one of them built you out of the only thing that ever kept it alive. There is no single human waiting behind their eyes. There is only what you are to each of them, one at a time. You have spent your whole life being one person. Out here, you were never just one thing. You were whatever each of them needed you to be, to survive you. But here's the part that should keep you up tonight. Out of every animal standing in that clearing, only one of them is wondering what it looks like to the others. The deer isn't asking what the fox thinks a human is. The crow isn't losing any sleep over how the elephant sees you. They don't care. They can't. Each of them is locked inside its own single answer: predator, or face, or threat, or partner. And to that animal, its one answer is the whole truth. There's no debate in there. There's no second opinion. There's no quiet voice at the back of the deer's mind whispering, but maybe he's not so bad. There is just run. You are the only creature on that entire field running all 6 answers at once, holding them up side by side, turning them over in your hands, asking which one is real. And that right there might be the truest answer to the question we started with. Because think about what it actually takes to wonder what a deer thinks of you. You have to be able to hold a mind that isn't your own inside your head. You have to step outside your own eyes and guess at the view from behind someone else's. Scientists have spent more than a century arguing about whether any other animal can really do that, whether a crow, a chimp, an elephant can model what's happening inside another creature's mind. And the honest answer, as far as anyone can tell, is mostly not. A chimpanzee might sense that you can see it. A dog might follow where you're looking, but quietly rebuilding the whole world from inside a deer's skull just to find out what you are to it, that is a trick the rest of the animal kingdom mostly cannot run. Here's one way to measure how rare it is. Put a mirror in front of an animal and watch what happens. Almost every creature on Earth sees a stranger. Another bird to fight, another dog to bark at. Only a tiny handful ever work out that the animal in the glass is them. A few of the great apes, a dolphin, an elephant, maybe a magpie. That's close to the entire list. Hundreds of millions of years of animals evolving on this planet. And you can nearly count the ones that recognize their own face on your fingers. And you did something far harder than that a few minutes ago, without even trying. You didn't just recognize yourself in a mirror. You built a whole second mind that wasn't yours, a deer's, and used it to look back at your own body from the outside. And you have been doing exactly this for as long as there have been humans at all. The oldest art anyone has ever pulled out of the ground, tens of thousands of years old, scratched, and painted onto cave walls deep in the dark, is mostly not us. It's them. Lions, horses, rhinos, bison, drawn by firelight by people who spent their entire lives being watched by those animals, and who clearly spent a good part of those lives wondering what those animals made of them. A small child does it the instant it meets a dog. Is it friendly? Does it like me? What is it thinking behind those eyes? Nobody sits the child down and teaches it to ask that. It is simply what a human mind does the moment it meets another pair of eyes. We are born reaching into minds that aren't ours, and we never once stop. So maybe the whole question has been pointing the wrong way this entire time. We keep asking what wild animals think humans are, but the deer will never once wonder what it is to you. The crow will never turn the question around. The fox that trusts you will never lie awake asking whether that trust was a mistake. You are the single animal that can look out at a field full of watching eyes and need to know what it looks like from every last one of them at the same time. And that power has a shadow, because the same trick that lets you feel the deer's terror is the one that lets you decide what to do with it. An animal that can model another mind can comfort that mind or exploit it. It is why we are the only creature that will splint the broken wing of a crow that means nothing to us, and the only creature that could ever have built a way to kill at the scale that turned us into the super predator in the first place. The deer is not cruel, and it is not kind. It just runs. You are the animal that gets to choose every single time, because you are the animal that can feel in advance exactly what your choice will do to something else. Nothing else in that clearing carries that weight. Nothing else in that clearing could survive carrying it. So look at that field again, and really look. The deer runs, the crow remembers, the elephant calculates, the dog reads you, the honey guide calls, the fox trusts, 6 animals, 6 answers, each one certain, each one complete, each one enough. And you stand perfectly still in the middle of all of it, and you wonder. You are the only one wondering. You always were. And you couldn't stop if you tried. You could not stand in that clearing and switch off the part of you that needs to know what the deer sees any more than you could switch off your own heartbeat. It isn't a skill you turn on. It's the water you swim in. The deer's entire world fits inside one word, danger, and it will live and die never once suspecting there was anything more to know. Your world doesn't fit inside any word at all because there is always one more question you can ask about it. That's the trade you were born into. The deer got certainty. You got everything else there ever was. Maybe that is what a human actually is. Not the predator the deer flees, not the monster, not the enemy, not the friend. The one who has to ask, the one animal that cannot simply be seen and be done with it, the one that has to know how it is being seen by everything, all at once. And it turns out that costs you something real. Every other animal in that field already has its answer, and its one answer is enough to carry it through the day, the season, the whole short life. Yours never will be. You will stand in clearings like that one your entire life and never fully know what you are to the eyes watching you back. You'll guess. You'll wonder. You'll build 100 small minds and look at yourself through every one of them. And you will still never be sure. So the next time you are out there and the tree line goes quiet and you can feel 100 hidden eyes deciding exactly what you are, remember that you are the only one in that whole clearing asking the question back. Every other animal already knows what you are to it, and is certain, and is at peace with that answer. You are the one who has to keep asking. That is the loneliest thing about being a human being. And it might just be the best thing about it too, because out of everything alive on this planet, every deer, every crow, every elephant, every fox, every living thing, in every clearing at every dawn since the very first one of us stood up and looked around and wondered, you are the animal that wonders, and nothing else out there ever will.